They are taking our kids every day. I child them in and no one has a thing to say for those who have been isolated. Don't be worried, you have a voice today. So listen up everyone, here is the story. Child Protective Services is real. CPS is what they call it. They want our kids because it fills a lot of people's wallet. We all think it won't be us. We say when they come we will be so tough. It all sounds good when there's no one to take them. But when they come, your voice gets to breaking. Stay calm, step away. CPS ain't taking no one today. We are educated. Stay calm, step away. CPS, you need to leave. I know the tricks up your sleeve. You can't do what you're trying to do. We have done our homework. Don't do a damn thing without a warrant. You no longer will steal our kids this way. Tiff and the Punisher have come for the calling. They are giving us the CPS warning. Their voice is loud and clear. We stop losing our kids this year. Tiff wants to fight the entire planet. She is tired of our kids being taken, God damn it. She's been fighting CPS for 30 years, bringing children home from this disgusting mess. The Punisher is screaming out loud, abolish CPS and tear it down. I want all our kids to come back. Look at all those kids' pictures held up like thin tags. Together we are stronger than we need. We will tear down CPS with high speed. We will do so much being together. Birds of a feather flock together. So watch out CPS, here we come. Picking you one by one. We promise to bring back the family and prosecute the caseworkers unhandily. So give us back the kids you have taken. Tiff and the Punisher sending you all on a vacation. The one with bars in the windows and the only games you play are on Nintendos. Corruption in courts, here we come. We won't stop until it's done. You judges need to learn what you stand for. This is Tiff and the Punisher warrior. We cry out to all of you out there. We need support for a cause that many don't care. All children are being stolen way too often. So CPS, we plan on doing the stopping. Stop it.
Our own state.
Hey.
Hey.
Up,
Well, I was singing and my cat bit me, so I guess that meant, yeah, I shouldn't be singing.
Stop singing, Tiff. When the cat bites you, that means stop singing.
Oh, he's like, this ain't American Idol.
Well, you know, my friend Jeff was here. He was just asking me about that. I'm interested to hear. He asked the cops today what they thought of human trafficking. What was the final answer, Jeff?
Said, well, it smells like shit. I keep my nose out of it.
Wow. Good answer.
What did he say?
He said if it smells like shit, he keeps his nose out of it. That's what the cop said.
Yeah.
What?
Can you believe that?
That.
Word for word.
Can you believe that?
And your friend, you said his name is Jeff?
Yeah.
Your friend should have called me and told me in front of that officer what he said, because I'd have lost my shit on that cop.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he wanted to leave, but he was kind of tied up.
Basically, he says he's not part of can't get the power to do nothing about it, and neither do we. Not singularly. Together we might, but not him individually or any of us individually can stop that.
Yep,
That's
but
the hard
that's
truth.
that's the mindset that they have too. That's the exact mindset that they all have about the CPS stuff, about all that, is that nobody can do nothing about it. That's like that's it, and that's why shit's not getting done. And it's because it's either too powerful, or it's because it's too big, or it's because of what. But it doesn't matter. That's why we're here. And as long as we keep spreading this word, and people understand this. Tiff, say hello to your friends.
Hi, everybody.
That's just it. That's the mindset that these police have with this. So when they call for CPS, it's no wonder that they're right there, hand in hand with them, getting ready to take these kids right away. They don't care. I mean, because if that's one cop's opinion, then they get their opinion, they draw their opinions together. I'd be interested to see what police departments say. And the truth be known, like not some BS, like on the TV. I'd love to know what these cops really think when they call about CPS, when they call about all of this stuff.
If I could get my dad to figure out how to get on YouTube, and we would have to bleep out a lot of his shit. You'd have to hit the button every time the F-bomb flew out of his mouth. But he's a constitutional police officer, even though he's a retired police officer. Once a cop, always a cop.
Correct.
Because I bet you he'd have had a lot to say to that cop if he had said that shit. And it's funny because a couple of the because we do window tint too, and before this happened, Darren, I can't see you. And before this case happened,
I'm right here. I'm right above you.
Let me move the screen down. Oh, there you are. Before this case happened, we tinted all the police cars, right? We did the city, the county, and the state. Well, once this case happened and the sheriff's department wanted to act like that, we terminated all our contracts with them. Absolutely not. We will not tint another fucking window for you.
Wow. That's crazy. So they live, they're supposed to be here to help us and to be part of what we are part of, and they're not. They've separated themselves from us. Absolutely, they've separated themselves from us. Their job is no longer. When your dad was a cop, that was a prestigious, honorable job to help the people in the community, to do right by them. Like my dad used to tell me stories of, and I'm not condoning drinking and driving, but if they pulled you over and you were drinking and driving, they put you in the police car and bring you home and say, sober up, kid. Not ruining your life with a charge like this. That's what their decisions were. And that's where that's what they were about. Like they were going by the old ways of the common law. If you didn't, there wasn't an injured party, there wasn't a crime. Like that's pretty much the way common law goes that way. And, and I mean, I'm sure that it also goes in there something about theft and burglary also. But just the point is their jobs, they're policy enforcers. That's what police are. It's what the Angry Citizen said the other night on the show. Police, and it makes sense. Policy enforcer, police. But they've put themselves out there to be what they're not, and this is what's happening in our society. And for them to make a comment to him like that, that's disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting to say something like that to someone. That should be the first damn thing on their mind, what's going on. And that should be the first thing that they're thinking when CPS is involved in a case, that where's this kid going? Is this safe for me to do this? Is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? All of those questions these cops should be asking. Any of these cops should be asking when they go up and they deal with CPS. Like, how does this work? Karen says it's not letting her. 515-398-624. 515. Oh, is that our phone number? 3698. Is that our phone number, Kara? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Kara's trying to get in touch with us, I guess. I don't know what's going on there, but that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. She will in a minute. She's driving. Damn mouse. So yeah, that's that's really hard on my mind right there. That's just absolutely asinine that the cops will think this way.
Well, if the police don't think this way, what about the judges and the prosecutors then?
Of course, I mean they all got to be right in on the same thing, right? They've got to all be part of this whole thing. I mean, that's just they don't care. They're not. They don't have time for it. I guess in essence is what they're. And then for him to say there's nothing we can do individually. What the fuck do you mean there's nothing you can do? You're a goddamn officer of the law. There's a lot you can do. And if you know what, if that's the way it is, you should be setting precedents on how it's supposed to be if you're a police officer. Shame on you for making that your statement and your stance on this stuff. Forever Family sold my youngest son on television, and they had me arrested for asking why my son was on TV, asking for new parents.
Wow.
Jesus almighty. And that's what they do too. They put these adoptions up. They put them on just like Price is Right. These kids, trounce them around on the stage, and these kids that have been taken from these families that are up for adoption. Everybody thinks these adoption laws are made to hurry up and enforce the family values, and to get these kids into permanency, and it's really just to get dollars in their pocket. It has nothing to do with permanency for these kids, because most of these kids never get permanency. They bounce around from foster home to foster home to foster home. Because the foster home doesn't want them anymore, because the money dries up. There's multiple reasons, and they don't get what they really deserve. That's permanency. Put the kids back in their fucking houses and leave them alone. That's just it.
In Texas, and when I get the email, I'm going to send it to you so you can put it up. In Texas, once a month, they put the children in Texas that are waiting to be adopted, their names and their ages on a website.
Yeah, there's another thing I saw on, I think it's California. They have it like a magazine where you just go through and you pick online the kids that you want. So what's stopping any nurse and doctor and any sort of mandated reporter from actually having to get someone? I mean, and this isn't a far-fetched thing, people, for me to say this, but they call up and they say, hey, I need a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, for instance. Hey, Gunner, how are you, buddy? Yes, sir. So you got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, and these nurses in the doctor's office sit there and they look and they see blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby. There we go. We got this one. They do just like you said in the information, like Gunner's been talking about, and Tiff used in the articles today, about the epidurals holding drugs inside of them. Them using that. They say that these mothers are drug addicts, and they take that blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, and they adopt it to the family that said, hey, I want a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby. It's not far-fetched to say that that's what's going on. It's not far-fetched to say that that's the reality, and it isn't far-fetched to say that that's probably happening right now as this show's going on.
And listen, how that works is you go through a pre-screening process, and people are going, what are you talking about? How do I go through a pre-screening process for that? Don't you fill out paperwork when you enter, call it admittance into a hospital, that goes through whether you have insurance, you don't have insurance, whether you have money or you don't have money, if I'm on state aid or any of that other stuff. You have now voluntarily disclosed this information so they can handle the part of billing. But once again, that's into your private stuff that's not supposed to be shared. That you would figure it's not, so you figure, well, that falls under HIPAA. No, HIPAA is your personal medical information, not your financial. So when you go into a hospital, you are disclosing that to the staff of that hospital, as well as anybody else that touches your, we'll call it your case, your financial case, and says, this is how we'll bill it, this is who we send it to, somebody gets paid to do this or not, or it files with the state stuff. You've already pre-screened yourself on whether or not they think you're acceptable according to their standards. What we're talking about with all of this is perspective. And this is why the Constitution exists. I don't care what your perspective is. It's absolute truth is what we should be seeking. And we're not. When you go into a CPS case, you go in there, it's their perspective. But one thing the court is not taking into consideration is technically, under this particular thing, besides the person that may testify, say in a criminal case, all have second or third hand knowledge. None of them are coming petitioning the court from a first hand knowledge point of view. There's the problem, let alone the whole story, what came up to that. That's why you see people that are suing people that are getting saved from living. Hey, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was ready to die. Well, we didn't have no epinephrine. Well, the closest thing we had, because we were in a situation of poor neighborhood, the only thing we had was a little bit of blow. So we went ahead and mixed up some blow and jacked them full of that, and then here you go. Look, that happened to work. Disclaimer, I don't know if that works or not, but I'm trying to give you an ideal comparison off of common knowledge off of cocaine versus the chemical basis within a medicinal scheme. You got to remember, if this was so bad, if Coke was so bad, why did your thing Coca-Cola, the drink you all drank, that's what was originally in it. Now, you want to go down that rabbit hole, they had such a bad name when that was found out that they were using addictive chemicals to sell the Coca-Cola products. The rebound on that, gotcha, is where Santa Claus comes from. Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus. Brought together all those different things for our holiday, and we'll call this our holiday edition of Exposure. Coca-Cola says, hey, let's take and make this man based off of, we have a saint in the church. This is how much influence the Catholic Church had in politics and business. We have a saint that's getting ready to be disqualified because nobody uses her nose. So who is it? Saint Nick. Look up in the Catholic Church what Saint Nick did, or, Chris Creel, the many different names that they've had, is because this is proof of the collaboration of a creation of something. We're going to take a little bit of this over here, and this little bit, and a little bit of this over. Well, what colors do we give them? What's Coca-Cola's colors?
Red and white.
Red and white. Do you see how this was a perfect marketing, let alone comeback activity? How many people, here's the other thing you don't understand. Since Coca-Cola created Santa Claus, the entity, you realize they hold some rights for some of that shit? So every time somebody else uses Santa Claus in a commercial, guess who gets the payday?
Coke.
Follow the money. The people in marketing and everything else that holds the rights to that. That's just like your musical artists. We went through this before. They didn't own the songs that they sing, especially the singer-songwriters. The label owned them, and they had to buy them. This went on during our time period. Maybe some of our viewers out there are not old enough. I'm sure most of them, I hate to say, would understand this, is, it still goes on today. That's why they don't write their own songs. They have an individual songwriter, so, and they don't do the singer-songwriter type things much anymore, because they get to retain all the rights now, and those labels don't get to make the money that they do. Because if I bring in somebody that wrote a song and have a face, or somebody that sounds good and has some musical talent, and I mash those two together, I'm therefore the creator. Therefore, it is, I'm going to profit from bringing these two together, and it's releasing a very popular song. And if you look, it wasn't written by half of them. They've got a ghostwriter, if you will, that doesn't even play. That's been exposed before on several things. I mean, there was a lot of things with, some of you will remember Toby Keith when he brought his daughter out to sing. She has an incredible voice, but she didn't meet the genre because she was a heavier set person, and you don't you don't spotlight what we want the Southern American country girl to sing. She's supposed to have a straw hat and look like she come right off of our stereotype out of the cornfields, and that's not true, because those people, if you really get to know it, that is a made-up marketing campaign. That doesn't exist, but it sells a lot of clothes and a lot of other things, don't it, when you sell that persona? You ever notice when people get older, they quit with all the, I don't care who makes it or anything else, so long as it's comfortable, I don't care, or functional? We finally got some common sense. Why weren't we doing that in our 20s and 30s? Because we were caught up in marketing and lies and manipulations to get us to what? Come off of our money. And what's the one thing they want to destroy? The thing that money can't buy, your families.
You're absolutely right. It says right here, it says, Nate, check this out. You know me, Mr. Fact Checker here. In the 1920s, Coca-Cola began using Nast's Santa Claus in their advertising. In the 1930s, the company commissioned Haddon Sundblom to create a new version of Santa Claus for their advertising. Sundblom's Santa was a portly, white-bearded gentleman in a red suit, black belt, and white fur trim. The tradition of Santa Claus can be traced back to St. Nicholas, who became popular in Europe during the Renaissance. The Dutch called St. Nicholas Santa Claus, a name that eventually became the Coca-Cola and English version of Santa Claus. No kidding. Santa Claus is all,
folks, I want to point out something here that Darren's doing. This is called true fact checking. Unlike the people on TikTok that has banned me not once, but now twice I'm kicked off. Twice I have been removed from TikTok for nothing in particular until it was revealed to me on a different side of communication that we, and especially myself, are getting national attention, and there are people that are seeking judges, these corrupt ones we're talking about taking out, to file a civil suit to remove my TikToks.
Are they really?
Why?
Because too much truth. They label it as misinformation. I go, come over here and let's have that talk in court, because I've got the evidence.
Right? You got the receipts to back it up.
I got everything too. Matter of fact, it ain't just me. This is the thing that scares them. And that's why they're coming after us so hard. I'm warning you guys out there now, because this is happening. We have made touch with RFK. We have, we've been in, Darren's been in touch with Allie Carter, that's been dealing with that stuff, getting those people together. We've been talking to senators. We've been talking to this and that. And now it's gotten their attention of, we can't let this get out, because you're talking about shutting down Child Protective Services Division and making them back as officers of the court if they even save it. But it makes every single one of them a felony. Every single one of them a felony act, whether they knew it or not. And this is what we're trying to inform caseworkers, everybody else. I don't care what your state says. I don't care what your boss does. They pay people to commit hits and murder. Doesn't mean it's right or justifiable. It's an exchange of money under a contract law. And they're going to say you're not going to do it. I've seen people try to sue people for not committing, the FBI agents, they trap someone and say, well, I want to sue you because you took money for something you didn't complete. That's contract law. And they win that case because you didn't fulfill the contract that you agreed to, whether it was verbal or not, and they documented themselves. There's loopholes to do things. Yeah, I'm sitting in jail, but my commissioner is looking for, because I got $1 million in the bank. And when I get out, I've got more money in the bank. You've got to know how to fight these people. That's the biggest thing. And that's what we're all trying to do, is basically just turn around and tell you guys, this is not a joke. They have pushed their authoritarian, their socialism down our throats. This is so illegal and unconstitutional. When I say unconstitutional, that means it's illegal. It's a felony. So when I say this, I don't say this lightly to accuse somebody or a group of people of something, but they're doing it. They're printing it. They're activating it. They're all the time. And the basically, because they've been set up and they've been in there for 40 years, like Darren was saying, why aren't they doing this? That's called the Chevron doctrine. Congratulations, you just saw cause and effect. Why? Because the Chevron doctrine said, if you're a professional in your field, you get to pick and choose. The court doesn't get to decide. That's why they overturned it. It was illegal and unconstitutional, because nothing is above case law in the federal courts. That's what Chevron did. You are seeing a change in this country from damage that we're going to have to clean up from 40 years full of crap. I said, effect, but we have to stand up and say, this is another one of those bullshit cases. What do you think they elected Trump over? Calling that out. It ain't nothing about politics. It's about shutting down those wasteful government programs. They hate that. And then Elon Musk, I'm here to cut the fat, truly cut it, just over Thanksgiving. Hey, you realize what we pay in federal money for just turkey? To save the gravy and all that other stuff? All these things just to save Thanksgiving Day cost the federal government, the taxpayers will say, almost $10 million annually just for Thanksgiving or more. And programs that don't need to exist. I mean, you really want your money? You got to understand that's your money, my money, which is why it says we the people are the government. Stop, let's make this clear. Get the words out of your mouth. The federal government, the local government, the state government, they are not the government. You and I are the government, we the people. And it's under the Constitution. And as you read before on the bottom of the screen where it says the supremacy clause of the Constitution, says it right in there that every state has contracted to do so. We will not break these things. We will not cross that line, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
But you've got fools out here that are even CPS went before the Supreme Court to ask why they couldn't hire actors to remove children. Paid actors to give false testimony and act. Why? Because they're state actors. And it fits the definition. Do you see how messed up this is?
Hey, Tiff, what's the number one thing you got to do about your constitutional rights?
You got to learn them.
You got to learn them, but when do you have to invoke them?
You invoke them from the very beginning, from the day these people step foot on your property or have any contact with you.
Mm-hmm. And you're signing up for these things. Listen, you don't need money. A lot of people, I don't understand how you can be. And this was something I asked somebody that I said, you know, on the appearance, you look poor. He said, yeah, I've got money. Money was never a thing for me. He says, well, what made the difference of what you got? Why do you live this way? He says, because I choose to live simple. I don't need all this stuff. It doesn't benefit my life. Matter of fact, it does more damage than good. So I'm going to choose to remove myself from these things, and this is how I choose to live. It's free. That's why things like in North Carolina, when you're going back to primitive living, these people that don't have electricity and anything else, that they were basically saying, for it to be a residence, you have to have a power pole there. You have to have electricity. He says, I don't want it. I don't need it. I choose to live primitively. Matter of fact, there were people who were going over there, you know, to North Carolina. Matter of fact, it was so popular, it actually made it on a show of Mountain Man. You guys will notice over there in North Carolina, he had his whole little island, Turtle Island. I mean, there's guys.
I watched that show.
Yeah, we know him very well. He is just an off-grid. I'm happy. I don't need these chemical byproducts. I can use what nature has provided me, what the good Lord has given us with trees. Yeah, it takes a little bit more work. But yeah, it takes something called maintenance. But doesn't everything living actually take a little bit of maintenance to survive every day?
Take it to Papa. Hold on, Gunner. Hi, yeah. Sade. My daughter's saying hi. And hi to AJ, Mama, and Ruru.
Okay, so we have a question right here for us. How does schizophrenia tie into any of this?
They're not allowed to use your medical history against you.
You still have a right. Doctors can claim of this and that, but it takes a lot legally to strip you of everything as it should. And that's something to say that you can't comment. If so, then you would appoint basically somebody as far as like a trustee or something, and considering yourself an estate and have people handle your matters. There's powers to do things, powers of attorney, power of medical, all these things exist that basically if you're going with them and saying, yes, I agree, I have a condition, I really need somebody to probably double check me, which really isn't a bad bad idea, but make sure it's somebody you trust and that knows your full medical history, whether or not it is. And yes, there are conditions out there, but you have got to be proactive. When you're not proactive like that, when they come at you and say, well, you've got this and that. No, you don't understand. I've already done what I had, and it makes sense logically and also legally to the court. Because of my condition, I have a living will, I have a will, I have this, I have that. And when you go to a court, there's nothing they can do to interfere this because you had enough common sense or enough sense that you argue even with the court that I had enough sense to file for help. But it's with people I trust and not the state to take over. That's where a lot of people are missing out, where the government has stepped in where families used to be that they've destroyed because it makes them more money. Well, how do I make more money? Destroy the family. Why? Deal with child support that we can make money off of. You've destroyed a home. There's no happiness. We got them stuck in a circle. It changes their financial or economic level when divorce happens because there's such a dramatic shift because especially with certain things, one person walks away a little bit wealthier than the other because of, say, their jobs thing was this and that. Or, hey, this is where we got married this way. Anything you brought into marriage is the same thing you take out of the marriage. But once again, as soon as you get that marriage contract or that marriage license, you involve the state in that contract. And here's the thing, a piece of paper, and this is, I'm going to say this just to say this. A piece of paper don't make you married. Okay? That's why, and let me explain this for all you Judeo-Christians, a lot of people, because I knew there was a big ruckus over this about gays getting married. Congratulations, you just learned the difference between law and your belief system. Legally, under the system, of course, they're going to allow the state to get involved in those relationships. It's more money. That's what you're missing. That's why they allowed it. It wasn't about somebody's beliefs or this is wrong or that's wrong in the sight of God or anything. They didn't give a shit. They said, sure, we'll marry you. It's more revenue. Why? Because when you get divorced, what's the divorce numbers at? You don't even want to go down those trails where men versus men, men versus women versus our other rates for heterosexual relationship. The women on women one outrank them all. Those are national statistics reporting from the divorce records. Who does the most divorces when it comes to it? The highest one is lesbian or lesbian females or female-female relationships get married. 77% failure rate nationally.
That's what the marriage failure rate is right now, is 77%.
You know who has the best? Men and men.
Really?
Men and men stay together longer than any other type of relationship, according to national statistics. Wow. That amazes me. Why? And I'm not saying there's problem, but what your problem is, what we're talking about is seeing what MK Ultra, other things, propaganda has done to the family. You want to be equal to a man. You want to do this. You want to do that. I don't want. There's a lot of women going, I don't want to. I like being spoiled a little bit. I don't like this crap. You got people who've been told this that are going into work and they're in their 20s and 30s now going, I'm busting my butt. I'm paying my own bills. I'm doing everything like a man, and I fucking hate it. I mean, it's dead honest with you. If you don't like it so much, then what about single mothers that are getting divorced? They get the grass is greener on the other side, or they've got something else to slide into, and then that don't work out. Or something happens along the way. Now you're stuck on your own. Now you're going to the courts begging for child support. For what? For your bad decisions? And that goes both ways, whether it's a man or not. I mean, when it comes down to those things. But when did you put in your contract when you first got married of what you expected out of each other? Now you've got the state deciding that. Why don't you come together before you actually even get married? I mean, and this is where we're talking about is fixing some of the core problems that CPS has attacked. We've got to look at the whole big picture here, and we have to talk about it, on the nights that we have of different aspects of it. That's why we ask you guys to come back in and tune in again to pick in a different aspect instead of the same old rhetoric of saying, we're just going to talk about this or that. No, what is CPS attacked? What are they going after? Broken and split homes because they make more profit off them.
Well, we were talking the other night that CPS, now I've had some of my own clients tell me, well, CPS said that I have to divorce my spouse in order to get my kids back. And this is what I tell them. You have a right to be married. That is part of your religion.
Or your constitutional right, First Amendment.
Hold on a second. Stop. Leave the cat alone. Oh, he's mad.
First world problem.
This is why I argue with the 2-year-old. Right? Anyway, and as part of the Constitution, it's your constitutional right to get married. And in my vows, I don't know about anybody else's vows, but it said, what God has brought together shall no man tear apart.
Well, yeah, so once again, under your original oaths and your religious beliefs, yes, when you took those open vows, that's called an oral contract, people. You do realize that, and you don't need anything else in there, but nobody profits from that, which is why they push for the marriage license. Well, what's the incentive? You could do stuff on your taxes and all the other stuff. Well, what about the stuff about now finding out that taxes are voluntary? They were only supposed to be for business. Now what do? I don't need it. Find me a need. Find me the benefit of carrying around that license other than a name change. You can do a name change at any given time in any court for any reason, just about.
Yeah. They're like $150, and you just file the petition, and then they send it to you in the mail. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to go to court.
No. But how you choose to live your life, guys, with your partner is completely up to you, and a piece of paper ain't going to mean shit. Because the idea you both should go into is, this is the problem today. If I don't like it, I can just get divorced. Why would you set yourself up for failure and bad decision making instead of filtering or sifting a little bit more? Because you're in a hurry, because you're impatient, because you just want somebody instead of the right somebody. And then you find out stuff, and then now let's add another layer. This is where we bring in our food source that we can talk about. What causes some of these things? It's the food and the chemicals and the dyes and all the other pesticides and things that are in there that changes your brain chemistry, that messes with your hormone levels. Ladies, you are particularly subjected to this. And that's just the way it is by science. Somebody's coming in. So, guys, yeah, I mean, it's serious. It's all tied together, is what we're getting at. And this is why different aspects of how do you protect your children? How do you protect your home? You make you a strong home where they come around and you know your rights and everything else, that when they come knocking over, I don't need you. I'm not going to talk to you. You got a warrant or a thing. Have I broken a law? They don't like to hear that stuff. If that stuff comes out, take the foil off and just brown the cheese. It should be ready. Sorry, cooking a little dinner too. Little chicken parmesan bake.
Well, at least you're not arguing with the 2-year-old over a cat.
Nah.
I've got none of that. I'm looking up facts for us.
Listen, guys, a lot of this just comes down to, and there's documents of it, which is why everybody got into this new technology that they call psychology. Psychology is a newer thing. It's a newer science. But one thing they don't tell you is that no two people are alike. Why? Because the same people that have the same patterns and everything psychologically have been found to be in serial killers and murderers. In other words, they want to use that as a label to track you, kind of like the Minority Report used to do a movie like that with Tom Cruise back in the day of, you ain't done nothing wrong yet, but it already has predicted you're going to do this based off of this. Not going to happen. The problem is a lot of things that have done, we've moved in this era of, and we did this back in the 70s and 80s a lot, and you're seeing a lot of that too, is they wanted to do preventative. Okay, preventative crime prevention, this prevention, that prevention, abuse prevention. You see how we all went into that? Well, we just need to do everything we can to prevent. The only way to prevent is education. The only way.
Yep. Education is the most important thing. That's why
yeah.
These seminars, these educational seminars coming up, learning about all of this stuff, learning how to defend yourself, how to get them when they're coming for you, when they're coming to your house. We have all kinds of information that we're going to be doing in these seminars. It's a must. It's an absolute must that people need to be a part of. And we started these right after Christmas.
And listen, there's a lot of people too, Darren, too, that you'll have to admit, even on social media and everything, there's a lot of people out there trying to do something with CPS. Yeah. Some are doing good educational things of how to do certain things. Some are tied up in petitions or this or that. They're trying to do something. But once again, this has been going on for 40 years, people trying to fight stuff or even longer, you know, with these institutions as they got worse. And they just don't lose. But you got to remember, those families like you're feeling right now, broken, imagine it never going back and you have to live the rest of your life like that. There are adults and people older than you that are doing just that now. You need to come to that realization that some of your older people have already had this stuff happen. They're going to experience it more. And they took and stole their children, violating their constitutional rights all along the way and everything else. No respect or nothing. For some reason, every single person and every government agency out there, letters or anything else, the biggest thing they want to get past is that Fourth Amendment, is getting into your home with no warrant or court order. The federal court has made it real clear. Unless you've got that or an emergency, you don't belong in there. That's why it's called breaking and entering. There's a secure for your thing. These are inalienable God-given rights saying you should feel safe at home without being subject to search or seizure at any given time. That's the point of the Fourth Amendment. And when the Chevron Doctrine came in, it allowed places like CPS, even law enforcement agencies were being caught. Guys with the blue line, you better wake up and look at some case law, because it's going to cost you everything. You understand, when you commit these constitutional rights violations, and they're proven, they're extremely severe. Especially if you get somebody that catches you on camera like they have on TikTok that we're getting taken down left and right, of them breaking in and forcing their way in and everything else, and somebody took my kids and all that other stuff. You've got too many lawyers that are state lawyers, they're not federal lawyers. You're not being given the best defense. You're being lied to. The whole system's set up against you because of that. That's why you can't find somebody that'll deal with the state and basically chastise the state. How do you do it? In the judicial branch of government. But they're not doing it. We're asking, why is the federal government not stepping in? Because they have already played the card of state sovereignty, and we have a right to. But then they cover up.
Darren, what did the article say that I was in? My very first words was the system sets the parents up to fail.
Right, all about failure.
It's all about failure.
Yep, sure is.
C.R. Diamond, is it possible to fight a case that happened 9 years ago? Absolutely. In any civil or criminal case, it does not matter. You can appeal it even to a higher court. And you can go back through all of that and actually challenge the constitutionality and that. The biggest thing that people don't understand, as soon as you have a constitutional issue in your case that they're presenting against you, it means that state no longer has jurisdiction. And it's not only your duty to call it out, your attorneys to call it out, but also your judge or magistrate to stop what you're doing in your case and saying, you have now brought up an issue that has to deal with jurisdiction that I have not a right to take and rule on, but it's also extremely essential to your case. Why? If you had a CPS person enter your home without a warrant, without a court order, and there was no extenuating emergency, according to the federal case law that stands today, any other reason is coercion and illegal entry is what that federal thing says. Now, how many of you that has that happened to? Exactly. Now you have to put it on the document, Your Honor. When you walk in, even in your child case, they illegally enter my home with no warrant or anything else and force their way in. And as soon as that judge says anything else, I want a change of jurisdiction right away to a federal court because I have a Fourth Amendment violation issue that must be addressed that is the core of my case. And yeah, they're going to let's move something out real quick. Anything you hear from a CPS worker is a fucking lie.
What am I saying, Darren?
Yeah, tell your joke. Tell your joke.
Better. How do you know when a CPS person's lying?
They show up at your door.
Nope, when their mouth is moving.
That too. Listen, they're going to tell you everything. Listen, we've even proven with the evidence we have, they are telling people in the state, in every state, all 50 states, they have published the fact that your Fourth Amendment don't mean shit. Your rights don't mean shit. And they publish the fact they have the right to come into your home at any given time without your permission. And they published it.
Well, not according to the United States Supreme Court, because they clearly said CPS workers are subject to the 4th and the 14th Amendments.
Yep. Hey, guess what, guys? Now you kind of get a hint of what our enemy's going to hit. When me and Darren and a bunch of us get ready to file our huge federal case, you're kind of getting an inkling on what's getting ready to happen because we're filing this pro se. We don't need attorneys. And this is what they are scared of, is you now know your rights that you can go into a federal court. I don't need an attorney, Your Honor. I can talk and I can ask the court to switch over to common language under my request. The same as my ADA, my American with Disabilities Act. You need to compensate me for my disability. The same thing, I want common language use. You can request that clarification without all the legal jargon. When they bring up word, Your Honor, I'd like him to define what that word means for him. Oh.
Because it is a word game. It is a word game.
You need to understand when you're in that room, you're in a room of words. Words have power. Same thing as your name has power. There's power when you have the name of somebody and they've got your name. But understand too, the other thing they won't mess with you, and you're going to love it if you're Amish, you ain't got a social security number. They won't come after you because they can't get paid. Indian tribal thing, when they go through some of this, they'll get reports. They're trying to get on that. Why? Because there's federal grant money that they want to dip into that is done for the reservation. They're trying to steal the residents' money, which is why the tribes are like, you don't have permission unless you go through the tribal council. No, we are an autonomous nation within a nation. So are the Amish. So let me ask you something. Why are you not part of a group that isn't part of those things to say you have no authority? What if you were told that under your First Amendment right, under your belief system, if you took and somebody say, formed a 501c under a religious organization saying that I believe in the Creator, I believe that the Constitution is the supreme law in the land, and I don't take in under our religious beliefs. All others take and violate due process, and it's against the Creator itself, hence against my religion completely. You make that statement as your oath or your creed, sign to it, and you do things for those things, and you live out that lifestyle that ain't no different than any other religion. Right. That will stand up and they'll say, well, you don't have a right. Really? Then why are those churches tax exempt, or those 501c's tax exempt from even property tax?
And why is church and state supposed to be separated?
You're not supposed to touch the two. That means you're not supposed to cross that line. So if you're implementing an imposition on my constitutional rights, let alone my religious belief, now we have a First Amendment thing. Do you know why it stops at most churches? Because that's the first thing they're going to cry is, we're going to federal court if you don't knock the shit off, and we're going First Amendment freedom of religion. And every case against the religious organization stop until they come up with a bullshit thing like, Ruby Ridge, a couple of those others in there for one automatic weapon or one silencer. You're bringing in the whole military, the National Guard, and killing everybody. Do you hear the bullshit and the rhetoric? It was the corporation saying we wanted the money, the land, and everything else in there, and he didn't lay it like what they was teaching. Right. That's not your choice. That's their freedom of religion. I can't do anything. I can't stop them. The same way as most Judeo-Christians, we don't need Muslims here. Welcome to America. You can practice it all you want to. You get to the point you cross the line of the Constitution and you harm somebody. And words don't hurt. Those are just called your feelings. We're talking about bodily harm, which is why the law is an emotionless thing. Matter of fact, there is a rule for your judge to only, as sitting as a judge or magistrate, to sit on there with no emotion.
Isn't that in their canons?
Only. No, it's under judicial code rule. It's under their code of conduct that they have to. They're not supposed to bring personal experience, anything else in there other than what they know about the law. Everything else is supposed to stay out. Now, Darren, we need to amend what you and I were talking about, because here's the thing I started thinking after that rule. I actually had, in my civil case, a judge, before we even got started, actually said from the bench, says, listen, before we get started, please understand that I will look at your body language and your reactions and everything else, and that will play a part in my decision. That's a mistrial from the get-go, from opening statement. Looks like somebody's in trouble because you just violated your oath as a judge not to bring personal or anything else. You're only supposed to allow. When you say you're bringing another measure of rule I have to meet, you just violated your own contract. You get me, Darren?
I'm right here with you, buddy.
So that's part of what we're working to do, is to make sure that we include that rule, because that's on record. She said it.
Well,
we got lucky in some sense because we were, it wasn't our first marriage. We were married, so the ability to divorce was much easier for them to push. And by the way, it didn't work, guys. CPS, you can blow the down under of Australia to me. We're built different. See what's real and what's tangible, and what we told was not even possible. And now listen, we actually had the court turn around and say that me and my wife's relationship is impossible. And they said, why? I said, because we don't argue. We have miscommunications or anything else. We simply, thank you. We simply talk it out. Why? Because it's either a lack of knowledge or miscommunication. So the more we talk and we can communicate better, of saying, listen, we're having a miscommunication. We need to clarify either the facts or your understanding of this. And funny how your arguments go away really fast, but when you have that frame of mind to resolve the situation rather than to escalate it or anything else, which is a good thing to do and interact on your daily lives, even with working with law enforcement and everything else, just keep your cool and keep thinking. There's your thing. Keep your mind working, because when your mind stops working, thank you, that's when that's when problems happen. But when you know and you've studied and you understand your rights, listen, you've got FBI agents trapping police officers, illegally pulling them over, especially if they're of a different ethnic group and they run into a white thing. I'm FBI. You got this, you got that. No, I didn't identify myself. I'm going to wait to identify myself. What? To expose you, because you're corrupt. You have no reason to detain anybody or to do anything. What's your reasonable articulated fact? This and that. You had one guy turn around and had a female cop just turn around and pull a gun on him because he didn't want to do this. He didn't want that. You haven't articulated what it is. That's not the way this traffic stop goes. We're not teaching people what a legal traffic stop is. Not even one at all, even halfway legal. One, what's the reason you stopped me? What's your reasonable articulated fact? What's your suspicion? Okay, now what's your fact? You go with the suspicion first. Now he's doing part of the investigation coming up, us turning around to do half that stuff. What's your fact? Well, I got you on the radar gun. Then you need to bring it here and show me. Oh, well, you were doing this. Well, I did this method. I did that method. Prove it. Just because you work for the state, it's still my word against yours, and you're the one with the burden of proof. Why did you stop me?
This really irritates me. The state cannot be a witness against you.
Nope.
A police officer won't even arrest somebody unless there's a witness or they witness it themselves. They will not here in Virginia. It's he say, she say.
Yep. Absolutely.
That irritates me so much. How the state, right? And that's always been one of my arguments. Well, who are you? The state can't testify against me.
Listen,
they don't know what happened.
Now they're a second and third person, like what we said, even going into court. They have no clue what the situation is. Then how are you legally able to argue legally that the state is not something that has been endangered? When you see you against the state, you have not harmed that state. A state is not a person. It's not a thing. It's a living person, which is why they try to just, degrade you to a point, even within some of the systems of the all caps of your thing and everything, and you don't stake and certify. You're a living person, and you're not a piece of property. Because how they're dealing with it is under contract law and those laws. If you have put yourself into the system, you have done these things either knowingly or unknowingly, and now you're part of this. Hence, you are giving us jurisdiction. But as soon if you turn around and do a thing, well, I don't give you permission, like you get a quarter, well, you send a thing over the court. I don't take and do this, and that. I'm not aware of anything else or anything like, you don't have jurisdiction. I'm a living person. If I've broken a law, then you need to do that. And when they say, no, well, you broke this state law, there's a lie. Because every single time you're going to go into it, it's going to turn around. And I'm going to tell you how this works. Real simple. They're going to say you broke this law, this state law. And when it comes up, it's a code. Okay. It's actually a code because you'll look at it. It has a number. It'll say whatever it is of whatever your state is. And then it'll say like code or annotated code or code annotated after it is what it'll say. Codes are not laws. The federal, yes, and you're going to say, well, that's not true. This, that, really? Because the federal court has told you the difference between the two. All codes, rules, and regulation are for government only is the thing. Government, that means commerce, things that they control and everything else. That's what it means. It's already been defined. So when they cross that line, you're not commerce. They have no jurisdiction. See, that's what they're getting you unless you participate. When you exercise your right that I don't, and I'm not part of commerce, and what you're accusing me of is a code violation, I am not government. I am a living person. That is your argument then of that place, and you have the paperwork to back it up, including the fact of the proper filings with the federal government agencies and your state. Believe it or not, under certain processes, you have to notify your state. I may reside here, but please, I am declaring myself as being a national, as as what they call a national, or I'm just under the Constitution, and you can define it. Once again, I say more definition brings clarity, so they can't run through loopholes with you. When you're very clear on your statements, words have power. I don't take and acknowledge myself under anything else. You can quote case law and anything else right up in there, and then here's where you get them. After you have finished reading this particular thing that you can issue to a cop without even talking to him, of how you declare yourself, and you have the legal paperwork to back it up. The first time you're going to have to go to court to prove it. And when you do, you'll hold on to that paperwork because that judge is saying, we don't have jurisdiction. Even though the cop wrote you the ticket or whatever else it is, and you go through it and you have the proper paperwork in court, anything after this, you're going to put the court on notice when you go through the first. Anything else after this that you arrest or try to drag me to court is a form of harassment. After that, I will be charging $500 a minute or $5,000 a minute. There's no cap. It's your contract. If you're going to involve me in this and you're going to pay me $5,000 a minute for your time, and I'm going to have a timer, you can collect that in court. You can make the judge collect that in court, because as soon as they proceeded along with it to go through it, they now have to pay you or compensate you for your time. Because the stipulation of your contract with them is, if I'm getting involved with you, then I'm going to make a profit off it like you do. And now it's fair in corporate court. Either you're going to lose, Ron, and now we both have something to lose. Why? Because I'm going to ask the judge for my money. Your Honor, they have no jurisdiction, and they took me about this much time, which I have on tape, the amount of time and interaction, as well as so much time and paperwork for this particular case in preparation. And this is the amount of hours that's due. I have showed up to court with a bill for my thing, including this time here. I will adjust it for the last entry that is blank there, and I will fill it in with the time of the slot and add it up for a total and turn this into the court at the end of this court case, if I don't have to deal with anything else. And people are winning those cases. And if not, they're escalating them to a federal case, and the federal courts are standing up for it and telling the state they've already declared it and they're right. And unless you can prove that you've got jurisdiction, you don't, because it's a living person, and those are commerce laws. You're trying to act like a business.
I want to comment on Florida Mom against DCF. They know if you were involved as a child, they know you are as an adult, because you're red flag, and any children you have, you will automatically have a case at some point in your life dealing with CPS.
Listen, guys, there's something else going on too. They're trying to build a national database for CPSs to where all they have to do is log in at any time, and it'll bring up any state. One, it brings up an issue of state sovereignty, of sharing your information or anything that's personal, because these are not court records. It's a state record. In other words, it doesn't get reported to the federal government for you to go on weird watch lists or anything else. You're just on the state's record. So now anytime anything pops up with your name, they're holding. But listen, also in those reports are some of the things from their home entry thing on whether or not you have weapons in the house. That's called a gun registry, my friends. And anybody out there that's Second Amendment and anything out there needs to get this out, that this is multifolded, that they are coming after not just those rights, but your Second Amendment rights are what they're coming after, because now you have a weapon in the house. Now they have you on a gun registry. They have guns. Now, if they get access to them, oh, look, there's some places that says now you have to pull your weapons out and show that they're secured under some of those things. That's illegal search of your Second Amendment rights. That is a felony. They are committing felony. Understand this. It's felony crimes. And understand this, under your Second Amendment, and most of them, they break into your house, whether it's a cop or a CPS worker or anybody from the government, breaks in with no warrant, no court order, or no emergency. He could come back and say, there was an emergency, I saw this, because it didn't exist, and you've got everything covered in camera. Congratulations, you can now defend no matter who the fuck they work for, you have a right to defend your home.
Yep.
So when people get a hold of this, of what I'm saying, of what's under your constitutional rights, you have a right. They come barging in and everything else, no matter if in ones or twos, you cross this threshold and you ain't got those things, we now got a serious problem. And this is why they want you ignorant of the law.
Can you read that? Can you see that?
Hmm? Listen,
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Expiration date, none.
Listen, I have one posted: no trespassing, no soliciting, no this. No, Castle Doctrine's posted, even with the codes and everything else. Don't cross that threshold. And that's called a public notice. Okay, guys, when you post this in your front yard, okay, and it's visible from the street, okay, or the end of the easement. Most places have about 6 foot off of the edge of the road. That's called an easement. They're allowed to be on that. Okay, that depends on your state, and you're going to have to look that up. Yep. But if you can visually see it clearly, somebody with decent vision, with a goal of 20/30 or 30/30 vision, can still see it from the road. They no longer have a right to even knock on your door. You can't knock. It's posted. It's called a public posting. It's no different than when you walk into a place that says no guns are allowed, or no shoes, no socks, no service. It's called a public declaration. And there's a whole section of law on it. Did you walk past the big ass sign that said this, and that? Well, yeah, I didn't. It doesn't pertain to me. I work for the state. No, that pertains to any fucking living individual. The same way as I don't trust you, I don't know you. If I knew you and you were inner circle, you have a key to my house. You know how, you know who I am. You know my ins and outs, my ups. You know all some of my little quirks and this and that. Your family. Doesn't mean it's blood, but you family. You trust it.
Right.
Legally, what that means is you're giving that person permission to enter your domicile legally, and you're giving them permission, no matter whether you're home or not, that you feel comfortable enough to go through your personal home, is what it means. That means the state, that's why the Fourth Amendment takes into. That's why you've heard on this show before of somebody saying, well, they don't, I'm not coercing anybody. They're my friends or this. That's a master coercion. Whether you admit it or not, it's still illegal. Whether you like it or not, you can candy coat it. Oh, they're my buddies. They let me in. No, I don't care if they let you in or not, because then that goes to the intent part of the law. They didn't call you. You made first contact off of an anonymous report, which is why it went back even further and said anonymous reports are not enough to get a fucking warrant. You hearing me? That house is being held sacred in the court because the Constitution says so. But you got to do it in the right court. If you're arguing constitutional rights, you're in the wrong court and you need a change of jurisdiction. And you don't need the court's permission to file a change of jurisdiction. When you file it, and you file it same day with the federal court, basically with questions that need to be addressed in your case, most likely, hey, we have constitutional questions we need to answer before you can go forward. That means it moves up to the federal court. They answer the questions. You don't even have to go to court. Ain't that right, Vinny? Well, Vinny knows. What about you, Darren? That's true. You just file that paperwork with the questions you have with the federal court. They will take over jurisdiction, answer the questions, issue a copy to you and the other people according to federal case law. It's just questions on paper, and send it back down. And those are the guidelines that lower court then has to follow, because they'll kick it back down to the lower court and say, here's your guidelines you must follow, finish your case.
And you can get all the paperwork that you need off uscourts.gov.
Yeah. So
free.
Listen, guys, change the jurisdiction. The only thing you're required to do in your state case is notify the court. All you do is notify the court and send over a copy of that change of venue, is what you're asking for, change of jurisdiction, okay? Is you're going to change it to a different court, and they can't do a fucking thing. When you file it with the federal court, that makes the state stop your case. Stop your case.
But just remember one thing. If it ever goes back to the state court, they're going to retaliate, so you better be prepared.
But if you ask the right questions, there's no retaliation of your constitutional rights, because Darren and I had deep discussion. We've dug down that rabbit hole. Listen, folks.
That's a crime.
In civil cases, if your Fourth Amendment, your first interaction is they broke into your home without a warrant or a court order or an emergency, that's called fruit from a poisonous tree. That means anything after that they discovered can never be used against you. That's supposed to be both civil and criminal. So if you committed a constitutional crime, deprivation of rights under the color law, upon first interaction with CPS, that means anything else they've collected or they're going to try and put before a court against you is now null and void. Is that not correct, Darren?
That is correct. Fruit of the poisonous tree, baby.
That's how you beat your cases.
Yep.
Because you're going to ask the question, Your Honor, if any particular state actor, elected or appointed official, or employee of the federal government and or state government, any government organization, just forget government, just put any representative of the government, enters the home of a private citizen without a court order or a warrant, which a warrant requires a first-hand knowledge, and you got to articulate this in your complaint, having first-hand knowledge of something going on in my home. Unless they have that, that's not enough. And it is already established federal case law that an anonymous tip is not enough to get a warrant. You need to articulate this, because you're instructing the judge. Don't assume anything. Cover all your bases when you write these things. That's why.
Nope.
They didn't have a right to come in. If they do that, is that not considered, according to this case law says this, is that not considered illegal entry, a violation of my 4th and 14th Amendment rights? They question me on my own private property at the same time. That's considered seizure under the 4th Amendment. Is this case law true? And if so, you're going to ask, does the doctrine of fruit from a poisonous tree apply to both civil and, you're going to answer the question for both. Why? Because this is your chance to ask the judge on clarification you can bring into any courtroom at any given time, anytime in your life. I have a federal judge that says this goes for both civil and criminal, and it's on a federal case law and it has your fucking name on it. You throw that to a local judge and you throw it right out with anything you've got or any other future case. Sorry, violated my rights. This case is thrown out and I've already got a ruling on it. And you don't get to prove whether or not they violated Constitution. Why? Because that's outside your jurisdiction, isn't it? Constitutional issues and whether or not they broke them. You can't rule. You have now put the state in a sense of such frustration because you took a case they thought they would win and turned it on them from the beginning. If you realize that's been done and you know your rights and this happens to you and they come get your kid, you file right away. And as soon as they give you a case number, you file it in federal court. You have a thing. Why? We're going to stop this case before it even starts. And we're going to get some questions answered as far as what you did, whether or not it was federally or constitutionally legal to do. Because if not, I don't care what other evidence you have, because that would fall under fruit from a poisonous tree. That's why, believe it or not, when they tried to use that threat and intimidation against me with some of the higher court things of this and that about trying to follow through, which is they're really good at trying to do that, and saying, hey, I dare you, you take a turn around and try to get a criminal case against you, because they like to stack this stuff to make the money. They love to do it. Just ask Vinny and Darren. They tried again. I said, I turn around and it's like, I dare you. Why? Because you got a 4th Amendment violation of entering my home without a thing or warrant or anything else. Anything after it's being thrown out, I know that for a fact. Criminally, I dare you. Because I'll have that conversation. In the first place I told them we'll go to answer that question is a federal courtroom. That stopped everything. It was an idle threat. And I knew it. And so did he. He knew that I knew it. And that stopped everything. But I guess, there's judges and stuff across this country now trying to take down everything we're saying. And why is that? Because we're speaking some truths. We're letting you guys know what's going on the best we can as we find out and how to fight it and fight it efficiently. Not with a petition begging the masters to stop beating the slaves. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. And that's already proven it doesn't work. The only way you're going to hold them accountable is using the same system they're coming after you to come after them. Right. That's just the way it is.
Well, they're all scared. They're scared, and Trump's getting ready to come in.
As soon as you know how to fight and you can articulate it properly, they're done. They know they're done. They're going to expartate. You're going to get rid of your case as fast as possible and try and make a little and hope they don't get caught.
That's why we won.
Yep. Listen, a lot of these people on these caseworkers, the other thing is too, none of these fuckers got kids hardly. How the fuck you going to come in and tell somebody about being a parent and what's good and what's bad when you ain't even got a nose to wipe yourself? Tell me how many times you stayed up 3 or 4 days in a row because your kids got colic or this or that or doing this or up with that and still going to work and doing that. Hell no, you got a cushy ass little job because you got some degree and somebody telling you what's right or wrong in a higher institution, but they won't tell you about constitutional rights. I mean, think about it. You're using the soft science, and I say soft science, even it's declared a soft science. Even now, the federal government's even deciding which science is acceptable by the government. Anybody ever heard of Hitler? Y'all are playing that play. You talk about trying to put out Project Paperclip propaganda. It's all over there. This is the same thing, same speech. And go back and look at Hitler and some of the speeches. Listen, don't go to the American translation version of those speeches from Hitler. Put on your damn translator and let it hear exactly what it says that Hitler was saying. And Stalin and all the rest of them that are in those foreign languages. Well, it's already translated for me. No, it ain't. They lying their asses off on that too. Because you don't believe me? Go to a Germany website and learn about American history and propaganda. You know, they teach that as a classroom instead of our history. They teach about American propaganda in Europe.
Wow.
Well, this is what I say, and this is what I've said. All CPS workers, all child support agents, y'all better look for another job.
No,
But your signatures are on that paperwork, so we're still coming for you.
I'm going to go a little bit further. Listen, I got a job for you. It's up here at the fucking prison where you're going to be mopping floors or doing something in the cafeteria or something. Why? Because those are deprivation of rights under the color of law. And the minimum sentence is 7 to 10 years for the first offense. You realize this comes with a jail sentence for everybody that's doing that. It's not just a fine and walk away with a slap on the wrist. Deprivation of rights under the color of law, you know, doing it willingly and knowingly, that judge has the ability to even go farther than that. But first time offense is 7 to 10 years. And you can never run in political office or do anything with the public or the state ever again in any state, all 50 states.
Good.
So that's why I'm telling caseworkers, you're fucked. Because what you're doing is illegal, and when they catch you, and it is coming, you are going to jail. Everything you've worked for, your nice cars, all the things you wanted to have, the vacations, all your dreams, guess what? You're going to find out what it was like for those families. Why? Because they're going to take everything from you. Everything. They're going to strip you down, and you're not just going to have a thing of, well, this is a possible abuser or some little case you've made up. This is going to be charges against you for committing acts of treason and sedition. And it's hefty. And when you get out, you're going to find out what a real convict feels like. Because if they know you did that and you entrapped children and you took people's children,
you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good guy.
Listen, guys, 27 viewers. We need to get those numbers up. And really, guys, get this out there. Let's wrap it up a little bit for the night. But, guys, we're just here to share multifacets of education with you and knowledge. That, you know, let's get to the core of the issues. Let's strengthen our families. Let's strengthen our relationships. Let's not let this stuff come in. And also understanding your constitutional rights. Guys, that's the biggest thing is your rights. And knowing how to stand up for them and not be ashamed and understand, of course, they're going to lie to you. Of course, the state's going to lie to you and tell you not to learn the law or know your rights or do all those things. Why? Because then they can't continue to make money the way they do, and they have jobs because of it. And that's sad. You have to get a job stealing other people's money and kids and stuff like that, rather than go do something productive and build something rather than tear it down. And I get you're under the flag. I get you're under the flag and we're here to protect children. But when you really take a look at what it is, maybe you'll ask the question why thousands and tens of thousands and more have walked away because of what they've seen, let alone with the Allie Carter situation. Imagine working over there and watching that trafficking of those kids coming back from those rave parties. And then you've got to clean them up. And they just go into the foster home. What do? Put them in the shower, clean them off, and put them to bed. Back to the machine. They'll use you again when they want you. Go hear her story. I challenge all of you to go look up Allie Carter and look up her story.
Yeah, we've been putting that up there. That's the one that I put up there all the time, the Allie's Army. We watched their show on her. We actually have been I've been communicating with them. But trying to make some things happen with that.
Documents in court, Florida Mom, everything you've got that you have hard evidence and everything, that's part of your federal claim. Look, Ashley Carter. Hey, Ashley, good girl. Her federal claim went through. Good, that worked for you. I'm glad that worked. Guys, we're getting past that Rooker versus Stallman case. If you stick with the plan that we've got and keep it about your constitutional rights, even if you have to do, like I said, now we found out you can do a change of jurisdiction early. Why? Because if you have a constitutional issue, that court has no jurisdiction to ask it. And you do have justification. Why? Because it generally does whether or not the case can even proceed. Because a criminal act has been done by the state. That means it must stop and that person must be penalized. That's the way it's supposed to work, but they're not listening because they're all in it on it and they all have money, and it's a false flag of these people are being hurt, they're not being hurt. And if that was so bad, then how did so many of us survive? And yeah, some fucked up homes, but we still survived. There was nobody there. You just survive it and you go on, you become an adult. You can't put a kid in a bubble. It doesn't work. That whole fucking theory of kid in a bubble thing it destroys them. They don't know what it's like in the real world. And it actually causes a psychological break when you do expose them to, hey, that's nice in school and everything else, but like when you turn 18, my son just turned 18, you got to have all those talks when you're of legal age now. You got to go do this. You got to take control of that. You got to change your number. You got to do your address. You got to do this. You got to do all these different things. I'm 18 now. Nothing goes to my parents. I'm legally able to handle myself. Even with your school, if he's still in school, he has to notify the school. They hated that. They hated the fact that now I'm an adult in your school thing. I says, technically right now you're putting me at risk with all these other girls right now. You've created and you've made it mandatory that I have to finish this out. Otherwise I'm truant. And then I have to do the time. You got to understand the loophole. You see how bad this is? You shouldn't have adults in with children. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to change the thing, but this is Department of Education. Why? Why do you think they're dealing with that? If 18, if we as a society don't say at 18 there needs to be a separation between the two, why do you tempt all those 18-year-old boys and girls that are still stuck in high school as seniors? Are you not setting up a stage for younger people? What do they call that now? Oh, it's called that. So you mean the state government and the schools are actually setting up for that? A chance for some kind of sexual assault or frustration because they mature faster and everything else and hormones. So you're now putting them at risk or basically dangling something in front of them they can never have again because they've turned 18. Oh, we got a legal problem here, don't we? Board of Education. Oh, now you've put all those younger children at risk with an 18-year-old adult. Whether they're in school or not, they're still considered an adult by the legal system. We got a problem. We got a serious problem. And this has been okay for everybody for a long time. You need to draw that hard line at 18 if we need to. And that needs to be done as a society. Why? Because every other government does it as well. When you turn a certain age, you're an adult. You have that talk. These are now your things. It comes into all those different things.
Well, my daughter's on here, and she'll tell you, I told all my kids at 12:01 on everybody's birthday, you're going to be sitting out on the front porch with your shit because you're getting the hell up out my house.
Oh, no. Listen, and that's something too, maybe that we should take and change a little bit. But once again, we're a product of a lot of our systems. Is what if we gave our children a little bit more chance to stay home and not the whole 18 thing, and give them more time to develop and save them from that financial ruin? Because believe it or not, the amount of bankruptcies that happen under the age of 25 is actually going up because of a lot of, we want to get out on our own and everything else. I says, but right now, I mean, think about it in this economy, Tiff, do you really think you could get out on your own and live? I mean,
well, my kids are in their 30s.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying even.
But listen, but wait a minute. Let me tell you, I prepared my kids.
Oh yeah.
The day they turned 16, they had to get a job, right? So they had to pay for their own cell phones. They had to pay one bill in this house, and they had to pay rent.
Well,
and this is what I told them. Wait a minute.
Some real world responsibility. I'm agreeing with you.
But listen,
I'm stepping on you.
No, listen. So when they did turn 18, now they left when they were 19. Right. I was kidding. But no, with one of them, the day she put her hands on me was her last day in my house.
Well, and there's boundaries and other things that have to be established, yes.
But then they turned into workaholics, right? Because that's all they saw me do. Work.
Survival mode.
Right, but now they feel like they miss time with their kids, and I feel bad about that. They're on here. They know what I'm telling, what I'm saying.
Striving to do and everything else before some of us ended up in divorce and everything else, and people went stupid. It wasn't our plan from the get-go, people. Trust me, we all know it. To have to reset at life at a later time of age, it sucks. Balls. I mean, at the same time, you've got some of us like, hey, at least you didn't have to deal with it going through a divorce where you had to deal with kids, you had to deal with property, you had to deal with this, you had to sort all these things out that you never thought you'd have to sort out. And that's one of the things is having that conversation before you actually get married and putting all that down on paper is kind of like a prenup, but it's what you expect out of each other to realize you want to last. And when those don't line up, maybe we need to consider something different. Just a thought, people, because that's what they're doing. Yeah, guys, we appreciate you. We're going to wrap it up. And make sure you piss somebody off with some facts and truths. And the idea is to build each other up and educate each other, and that's what we're hoping to do here. We'll see you tomorrow night. Tiff, unfortunately, we're going to miss your wonderful.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know, but I'm the legal redress for my local NAACP, and we have meetings once a month. So I have to attend these meetings.
Well, listen, we've been getting views on this show from senators, CPS people, all sorts of stuff. I've got people that are working on their education now that are actually going to start tuning into the show to learn something that they're actually looking for social work, and this is not what they signed up for. I mean, but there's many different facets of it. They can do things that are productive as a social worker. Don't get me wrong. That do directly what it was designed to do, which is an officer of the court. In other words, the court orders something, they deal with it right there in the courtroom, or take custody to do things and stuff like that for people that have really lost or have criminal action with it, and those type of cases, or those really extreme cases. You
didn't see the show, the senator. We had a senator on here.
Yeah,
my brother-in-law.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's getting more exposure is what I'm trying to say. But like I said, I've been on the damn banned list. So like I said, I guess it's all getting ready to hit the fan. But like I said, it ain't going to be no different as soon as they get hit with all that federal paperwork. They're going to, ain't that right, Darren? They're just going to shit a brick.
Right to bed, boy.
I mean, they're going to have it dumped on them with so many layers deep that they're going to go, how the hell did they come up with that? Well, simple. One thing I'm not counting on is being lazy. One, we do our homework. One, we don't just use a computer. We go through the Lyle library and we look for some things, and we know how to use those things that you forgot to do. A lot of you attorneys just don't get that, of saying you need to figure this shit out because you're not serving the right masters and you're not serving the people. You should be able to defend your client all the way up from your state court all the way to your federal. Otherwise, then you need to disclose that to your clients that I can't do federal matters. Regardless if it leaves that there needs to be a full disclosure done. Protect yourself, know your rights. Tiff, stay out of trouble. I didn't even see a cigarette tonight. I'm kind of proud of you.
Yeah, she's doing good, man.
I know. Look at that. I seen that. I got you. I'm just giving you props there, girl. Good job getting off it.
I didn't think you like me, Gunner.
Oh, why you say stuff like that? Listen, if I don't break your balls and give you a hard time, I don't like you not, because if we can't laugh about the stupid in the world, there's no sense of entertainment than anything else, because there's just so much stupidity around here. Common sense ain't common no more, but when you actually use it, you find out it does deal with your laws and everything else. I just don't care about your feelings.
All right, guys, we'll see you all at the next show, 9 o'clock, CPS Victims Under Justice, and we'll see you all tomorrow night here. Again,
Pump it up.
Good night, guys.
Pump it up on the talk, because I can't do it.
CPS comes along with the mission to protect. The only thing they are doing is cashing in those checks paid for by the souls of the children, diagnosed by a caseworker who is still a baby herself. They take away the fathers, leaving just the mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined.
Our courts are contaminated with young, inexperienced caseworkers and polluted with bribes, high-priced bonuses for speedy adoption of terminated parents, and judges who don't practice law with the Constitution in their sights. This is a problem.
They take away the fathers, leaving just a mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division is what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again. CPS comes along with the mission to protect. The only thing they are doing is cashing in those checks, paid for by the souls of the children, diagnosed by a caseworker who is still a baby herself. They take away the fathers, leaving just the mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem, stealing our kids. It's not mama drama. Stand up for all those who are lost due to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again. Of family services, you hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this